The last sugar plant in California, in the Imperial County, is shutting down. Today we have Gil Rebollar, who's the mayor of Brawley in the Imperial County. He's here to tell us what's going on with this sugar plant and what is the impacts of it on the community. He also will tell us how the Imperial County is doing.
Entertainment industry in California, how you've seen it slowly leave to other states, other countries. I think same thing with agriculture. Many have taken it for granted, thinking it's a staple, thinking what can happen to it until something does.
I'm Siama Korami. Welcome to California Insider. Gil, it's great to have you on. Welcome.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure, and looking forward to speaking with you today.
We want to talk to you about your region. You know, you're from the Imperial County. You're the mayor of Brawley, the city of Brawley. There is a sugar plant that's closing down. It's like the last sugar plant that California has.
It is the last sugar beet processing facility in California. And just to give you context, Imperial Valley is an underdog. You know, we're in the southernmost eastern corner of California. Geographically, I believe we're the farthest from the capital. We provide so much for our state and our country through agriculture, through sugar beets. It's just one commodity, through our border, through our resources, geothermal, solar, and the potential for lithium. And yet we are under-resourced, disadvantaged, and just feel like constantly that we have to speak up because we may just be getting ignored by the powers that be. And that's not our local. I know I've written an article recently about Democrats, Republicans. Our local leaders, both parties, have advocated and done their part. Our former assembly member, Eduardo Garcia, I know did a speech in San Francisco with the governor, I don't know if it was Schwarzenegger or Brown at the time, and said if the San Francisco Bay, if the Salton Sea was here, action would be taken. Same thing with our current assembly member, Jeff Gonzalez. I know the EPA administrator was in San Diego regarding the Tijuana River crisis. We have the same at the New River in Imperial Valley. And our Assembly Member Gonzalez was advocating for equal amount of action and resources to address our river crisis, pollution crisis in our community. As well as our State Senator Steve Padilla recently said if our problems were in coastal communities, they would have been addressed a long time ago. And so Imperial Valley, I said, does a lot. And the potential is there. And yet we're constantly just feeling ignored. And when it comes to the sugar beet processing facility, Spreckles, they announced last month they'll be closing. Sugar beets have been harvested in Imperial Valley dating back to the 30s. And the facility's not closing.
So almost 100 years, right?
Almost 100 years. Our agriculture industry is a staple. It's similar, from alfalfa to carrots to everything in between. And the crop is not that it's not viable. It's in the top 10 commodities on an annual basis. Last year, I believe 28,000 acres were harvested, and that's an increase from the average was about 23,000 previous years. This ties into the USDA Farm Bill and the sugar allocation. This allocation is not tied to our region. It's not tied to California. It's tied to a corporation. The corporation is based out of Minnesota. They've said they're closing the facility due to rising costs, affordability, common things you're hearing regarding doing business in California. So there's going to be some federal intervention that needs to be made to ensure that this facility remains open. I know our local farmers are bringing attention to it. Our supervisors will be traveling to DC to speak with legislators about how we can get this allocation. Above all, it ties to this allocation. We need it, and we need to have it in writing. And it has to be tied to either the California or the community. And so I think it's going to be up to our legislators to put a rural community like Imperial Valley before a corporation. And so, but the impacts of this closure are huge. About 400 jobs, not just the jobs directly tied to it, but everything that goes into a process to getting that sugar beet from the ground to the facility to out. And so it's going to be a huge detriment to an area like the Imperial Valley where unemployment has been decades long. We have some of the highest unemployment in the state, and it's been ongoing for decades. It seems the fight's been to try to get jobs, and now the fight is to keep them. And so hopefully our legislators at the federal level hear this, hear the story, and can help us keep that sugar beet processing facility open and get that allocation tied to our region.
So the unemployment rate in your area is about double digits, right?
Double
Almost
digits.
20%. Is that?
It's hovered around 20% since I was a child, and probably before that as well.
And this plant shutting down, there's 400 something jobs that are directly.
Yeah, I believe around 250 directly, and then there's about 250. I think 250 to 400. Yeah.
And what about the farmers? What are they going to do with the land?
Yeah, so Shelby Trim, she's the executive director of the Beet Growers Association, was sharing about this. They'll repurpose it, or the last thing they want to do is fallow. But the farmers are resilient. They've gone through changes in the past. They'll make it work, but that uncertainty. But then also just the workers, the workers in general, who are going to feel this, and what's going to happen during this transition. The focus right now, I think she believed, is to just end the sugar beet season strong. It's what happens after. But above all, like I said, it wasn't like sugar beets were not in demand or they were decreasing. It's a need, and so it's viable and it's profitable, and it just seems to be this allocation of this corporation who wants to move production from California to Minnesota.
Can they sell this to other plants?
There's been discussion because of the allocation and this corporation that wants to keep it in Minnesota. It seems that's where it's at. I know there's been a group of farmers that would like to establish a co-op or try to repurpose it, but I think they've either gone radio silence from the corporation, or there is no interest because of the allocation. They want to keep that allocation so they can continue processing elsewhere.
And it's not easy to transport the plants to process them in other facilities from your area?
We're the only one in California. I think above all, our intention and goal is to keep jobs in our region, keep jobs in the Imperial Valley, keep jobs in California. I think this is where, I've talked about neglect and being ignored is, this should sound the alarm for legislators, for the entire state in regards to agriculture. I know when the Valero refinery recently closed or announced its closure, Governor Newsom, put a statement out saying, try to intervene. I hope we can get the same intervention from our governor regarding this. I said, last sugar beet processing facility, California, ties into agriculture. I think this can make some comparisons to the media, entertainment industry in California, how you've seen it slowly leave to other states, other countries. I think same thing with agriculture. I think many have taken it for granted, thinking it's a staple, thinking what can happen to it until something does. And so I think hopefully this brings a focus into the role agriculture plays in our state in regards to jobs, in regards to economy, in regards to what it means for a community. Because Spreckles closing is not just hundreds of jobs directly tied to the facility, but people like my family owns a small diner. Employees go there, and what impact will that have on families just wanting to go eat, families just trying to spend their dollars, the ag, just everything that goes into making small communities like ours work. So hopefully it sounds the alarm, like I said, on the agriculture industry, but also just brings attention to the Imperial Valley, where we've constantly just seemed to be looking on the outside looking in, constantly being that underdog, constantly just trying to make sure that our people are given a chance at success and opportunities.
You're saying that you guys have been neglected, in a sense, by everyone.
I've gotten some heat for that. I've gotten some heat because, I've heard people tell me, hey, I've been critical. I've written some articles, op-eds regarding our state leadership, our governor, and I've gotten some heat saying, hey, you're risking grand opportunities, funding, resources for your community because of your outspokenness. And I would hope that wouldn't be the case. I don't believe it has been. Maybe I'm naive to the politics, but above all, I was born in Brawley. I was raised there. I'm going to die there. And I'm going to defend my home and my area to make sure our people just are recognized and respected. But yeah, I believe we haven't got the attention and respect. A lot of it is to the issues we've had for decades, issues that I've saw when I was a kid, the Salton Sea, the new river, unemployment. I have a 13-year-old daughter. Those same issues she's hearing about. Now I didn't have a smartphone at the time. Now she has a smartphone, so she can see, hey, look at how come we're not getting the same attention? How come we're not like these other areas? And so she's seeing what's out there and the potential. And so, yeah, I do feel when, there's issues that have been going on for decades that maybe have incrementally gotten addressed, but haven't gotten resolved. It's hard to say we haven't been ignored.
California Insider is now having events in collaboration with the Epoch Times newspaper. Our next event is here in our studio with Joshua Phillip, who's an investigative reporter and a China expert. He's here to tell us what's happening behind the scenes of the US-China trade wars. Make sure to click on the link below and come to this event. We look forward to seeing you. Now, with New River, can you explain to us what's happening there?
Yeah, so it's a river that runs from Mexico into California, to the Imperial Valley, and then it runs all the way to the Salton Sea. Similar to Tijuana River. I know you've had, I think, Supervisor Desmond speak about it, and it's the same, essentially the same. They've just gotten about, I think they had Governor Newsom recently went to the area in San Diego and announced some investments into resources. Where's ours? And yeah, it's a binational issue, environmental. It courses through our cities, and once again, you can go back to news articles from the 70s, 80s talking about lack of action on the New River.
So the sewage and chemicals and polluted water is coming from
south,
Mexicali,
from Mexicali
to coming to the Salton Sea.
Yes.
Through the Imperial Valley.
Yes.
And how is that impacting your community?
Well, no one wants a polluted river in their community. I think even just you Google the area and the New River comes up immediately. Regarding one of the most polluted rivers in North America. I know the Air District has been doing studies on the impacts it may have on air quality. I know for our Customs and Border Patrol agents who sometimes have to jump into it for rescues or for missions have put themselves at risk. People crossing, putting themselves at risk. Yeah, it's just an environmental disaster that deserves attention, deserves to be resolved. And I know San Diego has their own with Tijuana, and so do we. And I think it should be some reciprocal actions. If something is invested to address that, it needs to be done in our area as well. Being
in the border of Mexico, so you guys are sharing a lot of border with Mexico. How does that impact you guys?
Yeah, I know we talked about the environment, but we do rely heavily on Mexicali. We are a binational symbiotic community. Despite the environmental concerns, which are major, and just doesn't touch on the New River, but also air quality as well. Mexicali is a city of 1 million people. The capital of Baja California. Imperial Valley, about 180,000. But economically, we do rely on them for workforce and even our economy, our local economy. Our mall is heavily supported. We probably wouldn't have a mall if it wasn't for Mexicali. You can go to Costco on Sundays, you'll see Mexicali plates. Same with Target and Walmart. And it's not just, I think when people think of ag workforce coming from Mexico, they think of ag labor, but it's also highly skilled jobs in regards to engineers and planners. Mexicali is two prominent colleges. I've heard a podcast call it a college town. And so we rely heavily on the workforce from, like I said, blue collar to white collar. And so we want to make it work. We want to have this relationship, but there's also issues that need to be addressed regarding our environment. I think even when it comes to the border and federal intervention and federal investments, border security, national security, I think investments into our customs and border at the federal level, I think a stronger border doesn't mean a slower one, it means a smarter one. I think utilizing technology to make that flow efficient. I cross regularly with friends and family, and even for work. I walk, and there's been times in the summer where temperatures will reach 110, 115. I'm waiting outside in the heat for up to an hour with people crossing that are simply trying to get to work. You see it with a Jack in the Box and Walmart uniforms and seniors as well. And that's also not right either. These are people trying to just go make a living, obtain, and yet they're waiting an hour in exposed heat, in the sun, in the elements. So that's another thing. I think there's been focus on, you see some of the investment to San Diego, Tijuana border, even with their airport. They have a bridge that's real nice that connects the airport to the airports. You've seen some investments in the Otay area. Where's ours? And I know they're expanding some of the ports of entry, and they're expected to be done in a few years, but we needed them yesterday, not tomorrow. And so, yeah, we'd like to see just a smarter, more efficient border, investments into our customs and border patrol agents that also bring jobs as well. These are federal jobs, and if we can get more investments into them, we can bring some jobs into our area and really check off a lot of boxes.
You said you're trying to hang on to jobs. So, can you tell us what are the areas that are impacted besides this plant?
I think it's a common theme throughout your show, the affordability, just the cost of doing business in California and the difficulties in attracting, the difficulty in retaining businesses, not just attracting, but retaining businesses. A potential of area to bring jobs is in the renewable energy sector of our Imperial Valley. That's through geothermal as well as Lithium Valley. Our current Assembly Member Jeff Gonzalez does have a bill to expand and streamline the permitting process for geothermal energy and development, and that has a potential to bring more jobs. But then also, as Lithium Valley is getting a lot of attention, the potential to extract lithium through a direct loop extraction method, environmentally friendly way, or most environmentally friendly way to develop this resource that can really change our area and bring some jobs. But there are some barriers. Once again, just the permitting process, some of the CEQA. We've seen the weaponization of CEQA in California, and that seems to make it a bit difficult compared to other states. When it comes to lithium extraction, we're competing. It was a global race. Now it's a domestic one. We're competing with Arkansas, Nevada, I think even Arizona maybe. States where they don't have some of the regulations that California imposes. Now I get it. You want to make sure things are taken care of and protected, but at the same time, it can't be at the detriment to something that will benefit the people in regards to jobs and economic development.
And how much potential does that have? We know that there's a lot of lithium there, and this geothermal sounds really interesting.
Yeah, potential to bring jobs, potential to energize the state. Obviously, there's a lot of energy issues in California in regards to peak demands and moving forward. It can also just, with regards to lithium, we can set the way on how to do this and do this right. And there's been a lawsuit, there's been a permit suspended, and there's been some barriers. And once again, everyone from our state should be coming down here and advocating for this development. Even the Biden administration issued some loans last year, and our area on energy, and our area got zero, got no dollars from these loans. And so it's kind of like, where's our support? I mean, the state should be mobilizing, and like I said, our local representatives are doing their part to make some noise and bring attention. But there should be contingency, there should be caucuses, there should be everyone coming down here to the Imperial Valley to showcase, one, of renewable energy and how to do it, as well as binational relations and a border economy. And so, yeah, and again, agriculture, a rich tradition, a history of agriculture and what it provides to our state and country. So we do so much, and yet we're constantly just trying to just be recognized and be heard.
Can you tell us more about agriculture in your region? You guys you have a really big ag.
Yeah, we're the winter salad bowl. I don't care what Yuma or Central Valley says, we are the winter salad bowl. Yeah, no, it's just historically been, we have the largest allocation of Colorado River water. That's another topic, and we make use of it. We make use of it to harvest crops, to provide jobs, and to feed our country. And it dates back to the beginning of our valley. From Japanese Americans to Sikhs to Eastern Indians. Our valley has a rich tradition and rich history of agriculture and those who have made it what it is today. And slowly it's been, I think, once again, going back to perhaps thinking something's going to be a staple until it's not. A renewed focus needs to be placed on agriculture and the role it plays in our county to ensure that that remains and that's not under attack, whether it's through our water or just through displacement of land.
You mentioned that you want investments to come there. Why should investment come there?
We have affordable energy. We have affordable cost of living compared to other places of California. But we also have a need. I mean, we have a strong-willed people who are wanting to work, who are wanting an opportunity, and who deserve it. Like I said, it's an area, the Imperial Valley is filled with people that there's a bit of chip on our shoulder, I think, and but we're just waiting. Right now, the biggest industry, I think, is government and agriculture, and we also want to diversify it. But it's, like I said, it's so unique because one thing about the Imperial Valley is on paper, we're 180,000. But on any given moment throughout the day, that population may double. From Mexicali, once again, we're 2 hours from the coast of San Diego, 45 minutes from Arizona, about 3 hours from LA, 3.5 hours from LA, and then right along the border. And so we got a lot of truckers, we got a lot of snowbirds, we just have a lot of activity. And so when I talk about investments, it's private but also government. We're funded and our infrastructure was built for a population of 108,000 despite our roads being utilized by far more than that. I think even when it comes to roads, I know we've talked about that previously, we're top 10 in road mileage in the state, and yet our funding doesn't correlate. And so I think you see that common, especially like in the city of Calexico, where the ports of entry are. You'll have hundreds of thousands of people crossing there. And the population on paper is 40,000, but those roads are being used by far more, and yet that funding that sometimes gets allocated is based on population. A few years ago, I'm not sure if it was during Governor Brown or Governor Newsom's administration, there was an effort to incorporate daytime population counts into funding, and that would have changed a lot of things in regards to what were allocated. It passed the Senate, passed Assembly, and then got vetoed at the governor's desk. So perhaps there's an opportunity to revisit that, because once again, on paper and numbers, the paper doesn't tell our story and regarding to how much activity and what goes on in the Imperial Valley.
In terms of private jobs coming to your region, does the tariffs help you guys?
I think just the uncertainty of everything right now, and that's a common word you're hearing, right? Uncertainty. I think that's kind of where is it going? But even there was a recent action by the Department of Treasury that required all cash exchange houses along the border, in certain area codes, Calexico being one of them, where the limit was $10,000. If you were trying to exchange $10,000 in cash, you got to submit your IRS and your social security number and provide documentation.
To make sure it's not drug money. Right?
Yeah, and understand, if you're trying to exchange $10,000, whoa. They recently reduced that, though, to $200. And that's caused some friction and uncertainty as well. Now, I get it. You want to combat cartels, you want to combat laundering, but $200 in an area like the border where the cash economy can really have some big impacts. And I say that, and I cross $200. That's dinner with my wife and daughter when we go. And it's worrying too. Although it shouldn't impact, but it's worrying, and I have to give my social security info to the IRS or Big Brother. It's almost like, what is really going on? So there's little actions like this beyond the tariffs that can have a negative impact on our economy, where the intentions are there. I get it. We want to ensure that no laundering and cartels are put in check. But where's that balance? 200? I mean, is that really going to prevent a big-time drug dealer from exchanging money? And we saw it similarly about a decade ago when there were some restrictions on banks after September 11th. And essentially what it did was cause a lot of restrictions on money in banks and depositing. And what it saw was it essentially closed all the banks in Calexico. And so right now, if you go to downtown Calexico, I think there's only one bank and one ATM, and that'll be filled. Whereas previously there was many banks, and that once again provided jobs. But it simply just closed those banks down, and now if anyone wants to launder, they just have to go a little farther. So did it really address or not? And that's once again these unintended consequences and decisions made, especially at the federal level. In regards to the tariffs, I think we're waiting to see. We hope not. Like I said, that border economy is $1 billion. There's things that if we cannot work in tandem with Mexico, at the very least, we can mirror and parallel. The Cali-Baja mega region is quickly developing, from semiconductors to aviation to medical devices. And I think there's a lot we can work with and see in regards to even regulations. Obviously, California, it's been too many regulations. You hear Mexico, too little. Where's that balance? Maybe we can pick and choose, take from what they're doing to maybe model it for us, and how we can facilitate economic development and just make it easier for businesses so they can do business perhaps in America rather than Mexico.
There has been efforts to invest in your area, right, with different industries. Can you tell us more about that in the past?
Yeah, the efforts have been made from our leaders to bring jobs, to do things different, to diversify our economy. Unfortunately, they just haven't panned out. I think that's the big hesitancy with lithium. We don't want it to follow that same trend. We want it to succeed. We want it to be done. We want to provide these jobs. In the past, I think there was an effort. Solar came and did provide jobs. Not as many, I think, as was anticipated. Same with geothermal, but nevertheless, they provided jobs, and they're building something bigger. And regarding, I know, the renewable capital of the state, or the world, I think at one point we're attempted to be branded. I think that's where there's so much effort with lithium is we don't want to follow where it peters out or doesn't fulfill the potential that it should. Because not just the lithium extraction, but it's also the industries that can come with it and surround it, and really building an economy around the extraction. So it's one thing to extract it. We don't want to extract it and send it off to get processed or utilized somewhere else. We want to make sure this economy is in the area and stays in the Imperial Valley. It goes into even legislation. Our state senator is recently doing the push for a green empowerment economic zone that can bring together, I think, our county, Riverside, southern Riverside County, to strengthen numbers as well as get some community input. And so it's just finding that balance of not making sure we're not exploited and making sure that things are followed through with to fulfill the potential and the vision that we do see possible.
You mentioned the word exploited. Has that happened before?
Well, I think we're always worried, especially when we're rich in resources. We are rich in water, and I know there's been efforts to get our water. And we're rich in sun, and we do have solar panels and solar energy. Unfortunately, that energy gets sent elsewhere. But yeah, I think any community does not want to be exploited or taken advantage of over, like I said, once again, our desire to change things and do things differently. So, yeah, I think there's things in place. I know there was a lithium excise tax that was approved by the legislature to ensure that funding gets just redistributed into the community through the county government, through their public services. And so I think efforts are being made to how do we make sure dollars that are gained from our resources get recirculated back into our community, which may not have been done in the past.
You are being very vocal about this. You've been writing opinion pieces.
Yeah.
Why are you doing all of this?
Born in Brawley, raised in Brawley, and I'm going to die in Brawley. I love the Imperial Valley. I've worked in our local government, serving from seniors to even air quality concerns, to even the county at large. I have a daughter, so I do have a stake. I feel like a stake in this game, whether she decides to live there or not. I want to make sure the place, whether is an area that she can succeed, whether she chooses to set roots there. And I just see opportunity. My people, my friends, my neighbors, those I represent deserve it. I just see so many people working hard, not just me, but just everyone. And it pains me sometimes to not understand, just not see us get these chances. I served on the school board and my elementary school board for a term, and you hear these stats of 80 to 90. Some of my schools had 80 to 90% socioeconomically disadvantaged children. I saw kids going into their schools with, although it's a desert and it gets hot, it does get cold, and so kids going in without sweaters, without when it's freezing cold out. Just kids, we're having to do a backpack program so kids can have food over the weekend. And that really just kind of hammered home to me the needs. Like I said, I ran for school board because my daughter was in the public school system. When I looked at the slate of candidates, not any of them they had children, but none of them were in the system at the time. They're all older. And I think the parent perspective is very important. And so I ran, and selfishly, I guess you can say, but as I spent time in there, seeing the greater need in the community, I tell people now that I'm on city council, I know people think like, oh, you took the jump from school to city. No, they're the same. A school board actually in many ways I think is more important than a city council. City council, taxes and ordinances and policies, but a school board, you're directly working with students, children in your community. And in Brawley, I think our school district had the largest workforce. You're working with administrators, and so you're kind of checking off all these boxes, as well as schools can tell you so much about a community. If we had fights breaking out in our schools, chances are something's going on outside, and working with our cities. And why I made that jump though to school board to city was because I didn't see that lack of connection between our schools and cities. Something was going on. Schools and cities need to be working together. They're tied directly. Big part of it too, what kind of spurred me was there was a street in front of a school that had been unpaved for years. It just was in bad condition, and parents and teachers all the time would say, hey, if this school was on the other side of town, it would have been paved a long time ago. And it continue to remain unpaved, and we bring it up to the city. People would come to the school and say, hey, you need to pave this street. So, schools, our jurisdiction is that sidewalk or that fence, and inside the street is a city. And so we kept bringing it up and no action. And so I thought, you know what, how about I just be that connection? And so that was just kind of spurred my desire to really connect our city and our schools together. And so I'm proud to say this year that street is expected to be paved. So I think a testament to just the power of a voice, the power of someone to speak up and put themselves out there. My family too, my grandparents are rooted in Brawley. My parents are small business owners. They run a restaurant, and they have two restaurants that my grandparents helped establish. They have a diner and a steakhouse, and seeing their struggles. I think I spent my entire life waiting on tables, and my wife is a server to this day, helps them out as a server. And my dad, though, when I made the jump from the restaurant to government employee, people are like, what's going on? Wasn't he supposed to succeed you, take over? My dad, no, I want to have weekends off. I want to have my life. This is tough. This restaurant business is a tough business. And I saw it. I saw my parents no days off, working on weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, morning and nights. I saw their struggles that they put in, the stress. And so, I bring that mindset. Oh, I'm a government employee. I think people might think, I know, hey, what does he know about private? No, I see it with my family. And I think, too, that role as a council member, as a policymaker, is how do we make things easier for the small businesses to succeed, like my family, like not just my parents, but also their workers. My wife is a server. I spent server. I continue to bring this up because it's a big thing to me to see, like, legislator Rosalicio Choabo and the no tax on tips. There's been times when my wife brought home a check, and I'm like, what's this? And she goes, well, after all the tips and the taxes, like this is not right. Our servers deserve some dignity, deserve to keep more money in their pockets, and what I give to a server as a tip is not the government's business. That's me, thanking them, and so. Things like that, and that's things I think hopefully our state can come together on, bipartisan support. I think this legislation that benefits those who need it, and that's servers. That's where it starts. Like I said, even when I worked for government, at the time, my first job I was getting like 50 cents above minimum wage. And so I'd work Monday through Friday. At Friday, I'd get off at 12, and then I'd go take a nap, and then I'd go in at 4 o'clock, and then wait on tables at my parents' place. And so I've constantly worked, but I think working. I haven't followed the traditional path, I think, of maybe some politicians. I did get a lot of trouble in my youth. I don't hide from that. But that also just gave me kind of empathy and understanding of the ability to get second chances and opportunities. At the same time, I have to keep busy because I've shown my youth and history has shown that if I'm not doing something good, I may be doing something bad. And so I have to just constantly be busy and being a benefit to my community. I don't want to harm it. I spent some time doing that in my youth. I'm not proud of it, but like I said, I don't hide from it. And I think I can also just be a model, I think, to those who may be looking at, hey, what can I do to get involved and engaged?
You mentioned you were a little bit of a troublemaker growing up in Brawley. And how did you become the mayor? How did you turn things around?
So I didn't follow the traditional path. I did get quite a trouble in my youth, just with regards to alcohol and drugs. 'Cause I'm not proud of it, but it is part of my history and who I am today. I changed things around when I became a father. I became a father at 22, but prior to that, that was my wake-up call where I dropped out of school. I was working for my parents, but just as a server. I really had no intentions beyond that. And becoming a father now it became from just caring about myself to now, I have someone to take care of. It's bigger than me. And so at 22, I made some changes. I sought treatment outside the Imperial Valley. Imperial Valley has a lack of treatment services. So I sought it outside Imperial Valley, spent some time away from home, just reevaluating things internally, externally, and just got help. I got help. And I came back and went back into school, started working again, pursued my bachelor's, pursued my master's. But the one thing that helped through all this is, after getting treatment, getting help for alcohol and drugs, I had a huge issue with finding employment. I had a history. I'd been arrested, just running with the laws. Everywhere I applied was no, just right off the bat, and understanding who's this guy, and so I had some big issues. And so being a server, though, at the time was the public administrator would go in. Her name was, she's passed away, but the late, great Norma Saikon. And she was a public administrator and director of the Area Agency on Aging at the time, and the Private Senior Services. She'd come in regularly, and my grandma knew her, so my grandma, hey, that's her, and I would tell my grandma a lot, like, I can't find a job, everywhere I apply, I'm just getting rejected. And like, what do I do? And she's like, ask her if you can volunteer or try to get just your foot in the door. And so she'd go in, and then one day I gave her ticket. I served her, I gave her a ticket. She said, thank you. And I go, by the way, I just graduated. Can I volunteer? And she goes, yeah, you want to volunteer? Yeah, you seem like a good worker, and so, okay. So I started volunteering with her, and little by little, she had me volunteering. I was filing papers for like 4 to 6 hours a day, just in a little filing room, just documents. And finally, a job did open up
So you were filing documents in this room?
Literally filing like a 6x6 room, just hours out in the middle of nowhere. It was like in a country. It was kind of a forgotten department. And since then, it's relocated, centralized. But a job did open up, but it couldn't just, it's public sector, so it couldn't just plug me in like a private. So I had to go through the whole process. During that process, afterwards, I did get hired. But my supervisor at the time shared with me, she said, just a heads up, if you apply anywhere else in the future, your record did show up. Like, we know what you're capable of. You've been coming in, doing the work. But, someone who may not, there may be some hesitancy to hire you. And I go, I know. I've been getting rejected, showing my rejection letters. But she's like, we know you, we're going to give you the opportunity. And so that was always kind of in my mind of, they gave me a chance. And how many individuals were like me, who may have a record, who may have a history, who are trying to find that second chance and can't get it, and just didn't. And so it's a huge push, I think, and it always plays in my mind. Obviously, I had to learn through consequences, accountability, and that's not fun. But it has to be coupled with opportunities for redemption and a second chance. And so those trials and tribulations have formulated to who I am today. I'm big on that. I think that we need to make sure that that goes back into advocating for the Imperial Valley. I'm sure there are a lot of young men and women who grew up in the Imperial Valley where there wasn't a lot. I go back to lack of resources, lack of a disadvantaged area. There was a book by Johann Hari, I think, Chasing the Scream. He talked about, in the 80s, 90s, there was the rat in the cage experiment, where they put a rat in a cage and there's water with drug water, and then just water with no drugs, just regular water. And the rat would always go to the drug water until it died. And say, see, this is how addictive it is. This is it drank it. It was perfectly fine water, but go to the drug water until it died. See how addictive it is. But they revisited that study, and they put a rat in a cage, though, with different amenities. The rat in the cage in the initial experiment, there was nothing there. It's just plain. Whereas when they put the rat in the cage with other rats, with other amenities, bigger space, it rarely ever went to the drug water. I think that shows you when you put resources, build a community, how your environment plays in, you may not go to those negative, those harmful substances. And I think with the Imperial Valley, high unemployment, scorching summers kind of forcing you to be inside, lack of resources. We're struggling right now to reopen our pool in the city. Lack of private development and everything that comes with it. You kind of see what kind of cage do we have. And so I think that's why I'm trying to just build a better, that sounds horrible, build a better cage, but build a better environment. So we don't have to go to substances or try to find alternatives to keep ourselves occupied. And so, I think above all, I saw the environment I grew up in, and I want to change it. And I want to change it for the better, and I'm going to keep doing that.
Gil Rebollar,
yes,
Mayor of Brawley. It was great to have you on California Insider.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and looking forward to continue watching your show.
Let us know what you think of the sugar plant shutting down. Also about the rural communities in California. Do you think we should do more to support them? You can always email me at siamak@californiainsider.com or comment. We read all of your emails and comments. I'm Siamak Karami, this is California Insider, and we'll see you next time.